Okay, this video is the first in a series on bugging in, or on what some people would call sheltering in place. Throughout this series, I'll take you through various sections of our house and in the process discuss some construction-based ideas that I've implemented over the years. Hopefully you can glean a few ideas that may be helpful to you and your family. We'll begin with a room I call the bunker room. No, it isn't underground, nor is it fortified with concrete barriers. It does, however, have 2 bunk beds, food, water, weapons, ammo, as well as a toilet and shower. I originally envisioned utilizing this area as temporary housing for a team or partner, that is, individuals with whom I have a training-based or network association. Now, in this particular video, we'll be focusing in on the project maintenance workbench here. Why begin with the project maintenance workbench? Well, a properly set up workbench is the heart and soul of a repair and maintenance system. During a crisis, you'll need the in-house ability to upkeep, repair, and reinforce your home base as needed. And during an extended system-wide collapse, maintenance or repair techs will most likely be a limited resource, if available at all. Having a well-equipped maintenance and repair center at the home base not only makes good sense, but allows us to also adequately respond to the unexpected when sheltering in place. Okay, let's get started. Below the desk we have a weapons cleaning kit, a circular saw, and a band of utility wire. To the right of the desk we have a drill at the ready, which is kind of holstered within a hole that I cut into the desk. Here's a utility vise, and over here are my secondary tools. That is, tools that I use every now and then but are still stored at the ready in this location. Up above this area we have a fire extinguisher, a 13-inch TV with DVD capacities, either for watching instructional videos or an occasional DVD movie while I work. And up here is an overhead storage bin that I use to stow away 2x4s. And here's some utility rope. On the left side of the workbench is a reciprocating saw, a jigsaw, a long extension cord, various sized pipe wrenches, a pipe cutter, tin snips, and an excellent mini utility saw. Now, if you're only going to have one saw, it probably should be this one. It maintains a sharp edge and cuts extremely smooth and fast. Here are some disposable paint brushes that I use for quick painting or varnishing jobs, some assorted drill bits and blades, various sized construction screws, and in these 2 bins we have lots of construction-related miscellaneous items. And here's an assortment of alkaline batteries. As you see, I'm a big fan of stapling certain items so that they're arranged vertically on a given wall. Here's another example of this approach. Now, if you're going to employ this method, use a light-duty stapler like this one here, along with some thin staples. Trust me, they're much easier to remove and they leave less of an imprint on the wall. Up here I've mounted a magnetic strip. Now here's where I keep my primary tools, that is, tools which I use most frequently. What I like about this approach is that tools used repeatedly are easily within reach, at eye level, and at the ready. You can purchase 20-inch magnetic strips online or at Home Depot relatively cheaply. A great organizational device and well worth the money. For a pencil holder, I merely drilled into the shelving at a slight angle. I did the same thing here with my drill chuck. Every time I need it, it's always there in the same place. And with my weapons cleaning brush, I drilled a small hole, giving me the ability to hang it at the ready as well. Same thing here with my framing hammer. Now down here I have small bins that house an assortment of small screws, nails, and what have you. I got the bins from a caddy such as this one. I disassembled it completely, removing the plastic bins and screwing them in place as you see here. What I like most is that the front portion of these bins are rounded or curved, making it very easy to scoop out an item when I need it. Now let's move on to the construction of the project maintenance workbench itself. As you can see, I constructed 2 different size tables, a smaller one here and a larger one here. Let's focus on the larger one. As you can see here, underneath we have a supporting beam. Now you can use woods of various sizes and thicknesses for this support, whether 2.5 inches or 3.5 inches. It's your call. Regarding the width of the support itself, in many cases that will be determined by the most commonly available sized plywood panels. For large desks, a 2x4 foot panel is very popular, so your support would likewise be 4 feet long. For smaller desks, a 2x2 foot panel is common as well, which means you would use a 2-foot wide support in that case. For example, this table here was created with a 2x2 foot panel, and this table here with a 2x4 foot panel. Now, if you're going to use a 2-foot support, make certain that it is situated in line with the underlying studs. If not, your screws will miss the beams altogether. To avoid this, use a stud finder to determine the location of each stud accordingly. This way the screws will find their mark. We'll be using a 4-foot support, so let's go ahead and mark the positions of our underlying studs. Now here's how it looks from the side view. Let's go ahead and determine the height of our tabletop. So for now, let's forget about the support beam and use your hands or legs to prop up the tabletop panel. Try to find a height that's comfortable for your body type and size. Also, make sure you have sufficient clearing for your legs. Once you've got the right height, make a small mark on the wall directly under the tabletop, marking the height of the panel. Now here's a front view. Place one end on the mark and use a level to align it on a perfectly horizontal plane. Once you have it all aligned, screw in a 3-inch construction screw on the left side, another on the right, and finish it off with one in the middle. From the side view here, let's put our tabletop in place. Now from here you'll have to determine the depth of your tabletop. If you're planning on integrating a shelving system, then a shallow tabletop could indeed be adequate. However, if you plan on storing items on the tabletop itself, then a deeper dimension may be necessary. You'll have to ultimately decide the ideal depth that is best for you. I left my tabletop with a 4-foot width, but then cut the depth down to 17 inches. I therefore trimmed the panel accordingly and placed the cut side towards the wall. I then secured the tabletop in place by screwing it directly to the support beam. Now the tabletop will stay in place as long as you don't put any pressure on the outside end here. From here we want to determine the angled cuts on the leg. This can be done by aligning the 2x4 as close to the proposed angle as possible, as shown here. Then using a sliding T-bevel, determine the angle by aligning it with both the wall and the angle of the leg. Tighten the wing nut afterwards. Transfer the sliding T-bevel to a place on the 2x4 and mark the angle as shown here. Trim the excess and line it up with the wall. Using the tabletop as a straight edge, mark the corresponding angle on the opposite side and cut to size. Now it's time to screw the braces in place. We'll be using small 2x4 braces, and they would look like this under the tabletop and like this at the wall. Place the leg in position, making sure the table is level, and mark these places here where the leg meets the underside of the tabletop as well as the wall itself. In the front view, mark the position of the studs right below the previously made marks. Now place 2 small braces vertically on these marks as shown here. Do the same to the other side. Now place the 2 legs in position. It's going to be a tight fit, so you may have to use your fist to lightly pound them into position. Once into position, use the level to make sure the sides are square. Also make sure the leg is vertically level as well. Mark both sides of the leg underneath the tabletop. Remove the legs and mount your 2 bottom side braces on these marks. Do the same to the other side. Now place both legs back into position. Again, you may have to use your fist to lightly pound the legs in place. Also use the level once again to ensure all sides are square. You are now ready to screw the legs into place. Starting on either leg, screw the bottom braces first, then the top, making sure the tabletop is level continually. Do the same with the other leg. Now for safety reasons, you may also want to round the corners of your table. To do this, get a number 10 can and align the edges of the can with the edges of the table. Trace around the curvature of the can and cut out accordingly. And here's the finished product. Now let's talk a little bit about the vertical shelving system here. It's nearly all constructed with 2x4s and it's pretty straightforward. As you can see, I merely fastened 2x4 shelves onto some vertical supports and repeated the process as I went upwards. I then placed a 1x6 piece of lumber on the very top, which you can barely see here. For lighting, I used a 4-foot fluorescent light structure. Again, I secured another set of vertical supports here. I then found some scrap metal that I bent into place, and then I drilled a few holes for screws here. I also had to take the lighting structure apart and drill additional holes for these screws here. Now the operational philosophy of this entire workstation was designed around the concept of creating an open and easy to reach tool layout system. Instead of drawers where tools may stay stored and hidden, the vertical shelving system here places those same items at eye level and at the ready. So the shelving system actually modifies this desk from a simple workbench to a more integrated workstation. Okay, that concludes the project maintenance workbench. Next up, the overhead storage loft. Until next time, this is Analytical Survival saying, stay safe, my brothers and sisters.